I was actually brought into H&M because I had recently set up an API management platform at a telco company. And I think the first year we had about 17 APIs. And now we have scaled to like 600 APIs in production, a little bit more. I really think orchestration automation is the future if we want to have faster time to market and we want to deliver the outcome that we are set for. So also looking at that type of platforms to support us also is really super crucial. And what I'm excited about is that composability and modularity is now kind of part of our tech strategy, and I'm really looking forward to see how we can bring that to life. If you are a big company as H&M and you have a lot of legacy, you can't just say, no, we're not going to do it. But I think we just need to be smart. And I think where we maybe need to start is kind of start somewhere where we see that there's a lot of change happening. As we always say, try it out, fail and learn, and then, try it out again.
Welcome to the new automation mindset where AI, automation, and integration come together. I'm your host, Markus Zirn, and as Chief Strategy Officer and part of the founding executive team at Workato, it is my mission to find these top innovators in AI, automation, and integration and share their journeys with all of you. Today, I have with me Ramak Robinson. She's the head of integration at fashion retailer H&M, and that's why we have the cool background here. So Ramak joins us all the way from Stockholm in Sweden, and she has worked on integration pretty much her entire career and has championed composable APIs and then events also since she joined H&M 9 years ago. So Ramak has been a key driver for H&M to build up like a really, really impressive inventory, over 600 APIs, over 500 events. So a lot really happened. And I think there's a lot we can learn from her on how to make our IT organizations more modern and agile. So Ramak, welcome to the show. And to start off, put us back, when you joined H&M, you arrived and, what were things like back then? And then how has the world in the IT organization joined since then? When you came in, what was that future vision of what integration should be like?
So first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for the nice introduction. So when I joined H&M, I was part of the Central Integration Center, where all the development was done. And I was responsible more for heading kind of the technical delivery and architecture. And at that point, we had mainly file transfers and also message-based integration because we were at that time using IBM MQ. We had some web services using SOAP, but very, very few. And I was actually brought into H&M because I had recently set up an API management platform at a telco company, and H&M was really eager to kind of start. And this was an IT decision, I would say. We didn't really have a business need at that time, but I think we kind of all felt that this was something that would be a game changer considering the rapid change in the industry, and this would actually give us a competitive advantage. So setting up the API platform took us about 1.5 years from kind of RFI, RFP to the first API being in production. And I think the first year we had about 17 APIs, and now we have scaled to 600 APIs in production, a little bit more. So it's a very kind of a large and complex machinery that we are dealing with right now. And a little bit about the future kind of state is, of course, we are always constantly trying to move more towards APIs, exposing data and functionality as APIs. And of course, if required, also events. I see that we're moving more and more to events and event-driven architecture as well. But ultimately, I think us working in the central organization, our vision is, of course, to onboard product teams very, very fast and have the ambition to make them up and running within a day and actually deliver solution much faster than we're doing it today.
It's really cool. I mean, first of all, the fact that IT really, I guess, was the visionary, right? Was the one that kind of changed something. I mean, you take other things like, think of Jeff Bezos when he first talked about APIs and kind of basically forced people to use them down from the CEO, I guess, in a way. But tell me a little bit. So IT had the vision. So now we're 9 years later. How are things different? And talk to us a little bit like what integration, delivery, the speed of it, maybe enterprise architecture. How does the organization? How has that all changed? Really curious to see what the impact was of the APIs.
Yeah. So 9 years ago, we set up an integration between system A and system B. It could take anything between 6 weeks if it was a reuse, up to several months. And I wouldn't say that we were that agile. I mean, setting up initial meetings with source and target system, agreeing on what needs to be exchanged, mapping between source, canonical, target, and the test, and, alignment, and moving, between different environments until prod. So it took a lot of time, I would say. And when we got a new cloud strategy around 2018, it really kind of accelerated the journey. We were basically going to move from, on-prem to cloud. And at that point, we started to use more cloud services. And we saw a tremendous hype for APIs. And in the same, wave, we were also changing the organization to move more towards the product-based organization where product teams were going to own their integration, and it became much more decentralized. And it just accelerated, and product teams start to consume APIs and publish and consume and develop the solution much faster than we did before. And looking at the kind of the angle of the enterprise architecture at that time, the head of enterprise architecture was really passionate about, API first design and exposing data and functionality as APIs and also events. So we started kind of a tournament around the organization pushing for API-driven approach, and, nothing else was accepted. But, what we see now as a central unit delivering the capabilities of the platforms and tools that we have, I think we feel the pressure of always being ahead of new technology and trends and making sure that we have new functionality available in the platforms to support the different use cases for product teams. But most importantly, I think we just want to make it easy for them. And looking at, for example, new requirements such as automation, orchestration capabilities, also really, we are very keen at starting on that. Our engineers, they want to be up and deploying something within one day. So onboarding to the platforms is really, important. And I think what we are after is we want faster outcome that really matters. And we want to deliver, value. So it's really also important that we understand what is also deployed to the platform. We also understand that it's not just for us to keep the platform up and running, and it's green light. It's more like, what do we actually deploy? And what is the quality of those deployments, of those APIs? Are they correctly designed? Are they, are they meant, are they actually showing the information that they are, meant to expose? So, So it has changed. I think both are going from just being platform teams to actually being more involved in what we are developing and delivering.
And just curious, digging a little deeper into this. I mean, you did mention just very quickly the product teams. So I don't know, did you guys have product teams 9 years ago? Is that something that kind of developed from the APIs?
No, it didn't develop from the APIs. It more was an organizational setup. So we went from having departments, we had operation, and then we had the development, and we had like really different departments doing stuff, to actually go into product teams where the product actually owned the functionality, say, I don't know, payment or customer care, or, so they actually owned that end to end. It was not only integration, it was like the whole strategy around that product and maintaining that and developing that. So that was more for an organizational setup, moving more to an agile way of working, I would say. But it came kind of in the same period, of say, in parallel as we went more towards APIs, and it was actually a good thing because it actually accelerated the use of APIs.
Mm-hmm. No, makes sense. It's interesting because in Silicon Valley, I was a product manager for a long time, and for us having that product mindset, refining something, a certain domain over time, is natural in software, right? But I think in IT organizations, not, if you go 10, 15 years back, it's not the norm. I mean, there's still some IT organizations out there that are very much more project-based,
Yes.
that one-to-one, integrating one application with another and then moving on. The other thing, in terms of enterprise architecture, enterprise architecture is such an important thing. We had conversation about composable architecture is one of those things that that's important these days. I imagine that the APIs must really help with that. I maybe put it the other way around. I guess it wouldn't even be possible without APIs, right? Yeah.
No, I would claim that that's the foundation for everything. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. So one thing that you and I have talked a lot about is this concept of API, but also process orchestration, right? In the book, it actually the new automation mindset, it has its own chapter in a way. Why is orchestration so important? And what does that look like at H&M? That composable architecture that's built on the APIs.
Yeah, so we are just in the starting journey of moving towards composability, but I actually had this discussion with our CTO the other day about orchestration. And I think what I like in the book is that it brings up orchestration automation can exist on different levels. So you can have task-based automation for very simple tasks to automate that. But then, applying that automation to a process. So what I really want us to focus on is to create value. We're orchestrating, automating a whole business process. So we need to kind of, first of all, come to terms of what does orchestration means for H&M. So is it on microservices level? Is it on infra provisioning? Or what do we say? What do we mean? And I think also the book actually brings up what I'm trying to do here is that, orchestration for me is the ability to combine system actions, humans, and also kind of automation tools. And then, of course, applying AI on top of it. I think that's kind of that's where I would like us to head towards. And also, I think it's very important to move also towards more event-driven architecture. We are using APIs a lot. We have over 600 APIs, but at the same time, we have almost 800 events. And if you're looking at, a business process, there's a lot of different events happening along the way. And if we can kind of capture that into some kind of messaging or event platform solution, and using AI on top of it to analyze and, automate that process, and then of course include humans if needed. I think that's kind of that would be the real vision of moving towards that. But again, I would like to claim that the foundation of all of this is of course APIs and events, and if you don't have that, this will not work. So we are in a kind of a starting journey looking at this, and I started myself to look at composability from Gartner is talking about package business capabilities, process APIs, started to look at that 3 years ago. But I think, I really think orchestration automation kind of is the future if we want to have faster time to market and we want to deliver the outcome that we are set for from an H&M Group perspective. So also looking at that type of platforms to support us, it also is really super crucial. And what I am excited about is that composability and modularity is now kind of part of our tech strategy, and I'm really looking forward to see how we can work together, within H&M to focus on how we can actually bring that, to life, because a lot of discussions with enterprise architecture and different teams and domain leads and area leads. What we need to do is we need to define the business capabilities, which we are doing, and then look at which processes actually support these capabilities, and then of course drill down to which applications and data are feeding to that to those processes. And then having that, we can see like overlap, we can see or we can find reusability, and we can also see where do we need to bring in that modularity and that type of architecture. So I think we are on a good path of kind of bringing that into H&M. So yeah, I really believe that orchestration automation is really important for us if we want to deliver faster time to market. Looking at what we had before from an integration perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you, we work with a fairly large financial services company. And what they have, like many companies now do when they become platform companies, they open up their APIs to external use. They have this website, developer.company.com, right, where all their APIs are exposed. And then sometimes companies are surprised that maybe they had hoped more people would use those APIs, but you got to be a developer and all of this.
Yes.
And the orchestration in this case, like, these financial services APIs, they're really most useful if they're combined with the financial system, the ERP system of their customers. So I do believe, as you highlighted, the orchestration part, it's almost that nervous system, the central nervous system of the body, right? That brings all the pieces together. I think you rightly stated it can be different things that get combined. It's applications, APIs, but then it's also like people. Maybe there's a human task in the middle, and then now the new world, obviously, an LLM or some generative AI can be part of it, and and everything gets kicked off not just by polling, but by having events, right? That start a certain process.
No, I was just kind of also thinking of what you said, because orchestration, as I said, could be on different levels. So for me, orchestrating different APIs, would be like on the process API level, and then you of course want to orchestrate that and automate that. And my aim is that we actually somehow come up to that level of looking at the whole flow. And then of course you have these more low level orchestration, where you actually are orchestrating different APIs on the backend systems and so on. So I think it's really cool.
And as you said, I think the APIs are really the foundation. If you go back 9 years when you started, right, and it was file-based integrations between application 1 and application 2, I think that concept of orchestration would have almost been impossible, because what you described was that end-to-end process that crosses multiple parts, right? If you just think one-to-one, I don't think you can ever even get there. It's not explicit. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of really cool things that we can still accomplish. And actually talking about that, because if you think about that end-to-end process, obviously now you're getting to the part where, you as IT, you delivered that foundational, this concept, entity of an API, but now it's the people on the operations side and the business that kind of understand these end-to-end processes. I've seen how APIs can get these two groups in a company talking much closer together. I think that's what Jeff Bezos actually saw when he kind of mandated that you got to do APIs. But tell me a little bit, how you've seen change between the business side and the IT side working together. Is there anything in the last 9 years that maybe is worth sharing here with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, going back for a long time, H&M was operating in a more traditional IT organization where, business ordered from IT and we just, we delivered. And it was a little bit like we and them feeling. And then as the tech landscape rapidly evolved, H&M took the decision to, transition more to an agile, fully agile working model where business and tech actually worked in the same teams. And we did that move because we wanted to, take business near the technical development. So we would have more transparency, when it comes to challenges, we will kind of celebrate together, actually creating a better team collaboration and having that business expert or business knowledge in the team. We really thought that would kind of create a better working environment. But we tried that. We tried this model for a while, and now we are more working towards a more, I would say, hybrid model. So we are combining agile teams with larger platform structure. So I think that approach, we think, will kind of enable more scalable and efficient, operation across the company. So I think we're still evolving, but I think we have learned a lot by, having business and IT working much closer together.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually very interesting. I started off my career doing what was back then, it was called BPR, business process redesign. I guess now you call it journey mapping and so on. So I was more on the business side, giving the requirements to IT. And I tell you, this goes back to a long time back. But it was frustrating back then because it didn't feel like what you described of having these, teams together, or like, as you said, like celebrating together. That culture, it didn't exist, to be very honest. And I do think it seems like that concept of an API really almost changed a little bit the culture of how people work together in different functions in the company. Is that kind of what you're seeing a little bit?
Yeah, I would say like not the API itself, but I think working with product, like, an API can be treated as a product, right? So having the responsibility of a product and the product lifecycle and making sure that it's always kind of updated. You have you need to develop a new version, you need to deprecate, and having that end-to-end view of it, I think that was kind of the change for a product. And then, of course, a product can have several different APIs, not just one. But I think it was the concept of owning that and also have, business knowledge and also the IT knowledge of how can we develop this in a good way to meet kind of the requirements that we have to deliver a business solution.
And probably that's also like really, really important for the composable architecture that's ahead of us to have this all working. So if you think back, so these last 9 years where you've come, the kind of culture change also you've seen a little bit in the organization. So if someone out there was about to say like, okay, I want to do this too, or like I'm on that journey, anything like, I'm curious about learnings. Like maybe things where you felt like you did the right thing, where you maybe didn't know so clearly in the beginning, or maybe there's also missteps that happened where you say like, okay, if you give someone some advice, I'd say like, well, don't do that because we tried it and that didn't work. Just some guidance for people in the audience to learn from your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I would say first of all, the learnings that I have made, also not just moving towards APIs, but also when we are changing kind of the organizational setup, is that when we moved more towards a product-based organization where the product was owning, the integration end-to-end themselves, we going from a central perspective and moving into more decentralized integration development. I think one thing that we learned was that we lost control a little bit. And I think the learning is that we should have had more control and governance over what's happening in the product team, even though the product team can be very mature. We said that, now we're owning the central platforms, and we are making sure that they are there and they have the functionality that is needed, and the product teams are responsible for deploying, the content. But now I think the learning is that we actually want to know what's deployed in the platforms. So I think we have learned that we need to support the organization with, the API first design. We need to support the organization to understand, what. Sometimes I just feel that some teams can expose APIs just by looking at what they have in the database in their application and say, this information I'm just exposing at the API. Now I'm API driven, but looking at it from another point, saying that, I have all of this data. What can my consumers be interested of to know? And changing, that's a mind shift as well, like going from actually designing the API and understanding what the consumer wants, and then go back and say, what information do I have and how can I expose it? And also, I think another learning is that we really need to build in. We can have a lot of guidelines and guardrails, you should do this and this and this. But I think what we learned is that product teams really don't, we can have a lot of guidelines regardless. We just own the API platforms, event platforms, maybe, the orchestration or whatever. But there's so many other central platforms. And if we want the product teams to adhere to them, we can't ask them to read a lot of documentation before they start developing. So what we would like to have is, building that guidelines and guardrails in our pipelines to make sure that product teams adhere to them. So having a better control over what they are deploying. And that's kind of one learning. And another learning is, of course, we need to understand the basic of our data models and understand, with the help of data governance and master data management, understand H&M's data model. Like, what do we mean when we say product? What do we mean when we say, customer or order or stock? Because when we have that understanding, I think we can build much better APIs, much better integration, and and then adding AI on top of it, it would be kind of brilliant. But if you have, I don't know if I can say that online, but if you have shit in, you get shit out. So it's like you need to have that foundation in place. Another learning would be, from a composability perspective, is that when we entered, the cloud and start to work with, more APIs, and I started to work with these composable, reusability and package business capabilities, as Gartner calls them, I learned that composability is really complex, and it's a mind shift in the organization, and it's also very expensive. It's not like something you can do overnight. It takes really time and effort, and it really needs to come up top down, preferably by the enterprise architecture, And we tried, my teams, we tried to do this from a bottom-up perspective, talking to different solution architects, teams, to understand, within this domain, how can we help you get more modular, or how can we identify those reusable services? And, it didn't work out because if we're going to focus on this, we need to also have the mandate for product teams to focus on it. So why should they focus on this and not deliver, a business functionality that is asked by the business? So I think a strong enterprise architecture unit giving us the direction of where we are heading is very important. And then we should kind of focus on aligning, where H&M vision and group vision and plan is, and then try to kind of see, how can we create these services? How can we become more modular and composable? And I think we are actually starting on that journey. I'm really happy that we are kind of working on that now. So learnings is that, have a better control and governance, understand your data, to be able to have better APIs, and of course events, and implement composable solutions where it's needed, where it's required, where it's actually gives you a value, business value. And looking and talking to others in the industry, we say like you need to have maybe 3, 4, 5 this type of, composable solutions to even get a value out of it. It doesn't make sense to just have one. You need to have several to be able to call them and connect them and orchestrate them. So that's some of the learnings, I would say.
And I think this is actually quite important. So I want to try to restate it just to make sure I understand it, and hopefully the audience also understands it. So the way I see it is, and please correct me. So we have this unit, the API. I guess just by having that unit, the API alone doesn't guarantee that you get good APIs. I mean, you might actually create the wrong, I don't know if there's a thing such as a wrong API, but maybe not the perfect API. And I guess it also is that the world around you is moving fast. You have to get delivered to the business. And in that process, if you do everything the way it was, you might not spend enough time on really optimizing that API for the next projects, because you're on that freight train on just delivering your immediate next project. And I guess what you're saying is like, have that central team and have also the, maybe sometimes slow it down a little bit and say like, okay, look, this API, it's probably not in the right shape yet. We need to spend a little time now so that we can save time later. Is that,
yes.
does that sound right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as you said, there's nothing, we have bad APIs, definitely. And I mean, like, and then from a bad APIs, I mean, like, if you just take the data you have in a database, you actually use the fields also in the database. And in what value does it give for the ones that are consuming it? Like, it needs to give a value. They need to understand why they should call this API and not the other one. And the other thing is like, if you look at when teams are developing their APIs, and from a naming conversion perspective, like, why do we have 3 APIs that is called product? We should have one. Yeah. So what are the other 2 APIs doing? So yeah, I think we really need to make sure that we have that clarity. And this is something that we are working on, definitely.
Mm. And I believe the same is probably true also from the other side. I remember having multiple conversations with customers around composability, composable architecture, and it sounds like the right thing to do. Modularity sounds good. I mean, it's basically like playing Lego more than
exactly.
Right. And so it feels like it's all sensible and it's easy, and then you get to the real project and you sit down and you try to shape your Lego blocks, and you really question things, and people go like, where do we start and how do we do this and what's going to help? Does that, I mean, are you guys having those conversations?
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it's not easy, I think, right?
No, it's really complex. And I think what we need to also what we have agreed, I think, is also that we will not go composable everywhere. We're actually going to find the solutions or services that really make sense to have it as composability. So I think that's really important, because it doesn't always make sense to have it. Sometimes it's just better to use the system APIs and do a process API and just go from there. Or just use the APIs that a SaaS solution is exposing. So I mean, it really needs to make sense. So I think that's where you need to really take time and sit down and look over, the landscape. What applications do we have? What data exists? How are they flowing? And why are these 2 handling the same type of data? And so if we have that map, which we are working on, then I think it will make it much easier to find those golden kind of services.
The one thing though that I want to say, and I'm curious about your opinion, is now I guess we're sitting there, and I hope the audience doesn't say like, this sounds complicated, let's not do it. I don't think that's the right decision either, because my feeling, I'd be really curious about your take on that one. Sometimes I sit down there and I feel that some people, almost because it is kind of hard, it's not easy to do this, and then they just default and say like, they give up in a way, and they say like, I just buy a monolith application and we'll be done with it. We'll leave all of this to the software, to the application software vendor, so we don't have to do it. I don't think that's the right call either, because I think if you do that and you give up, then I think you lose the agility completely. So it feels like it's just something that you will have to work on as an IT organization.
Yeah, exactly. And take the time that is needed, because I would say that if you are a big company as H&M and you have a lot of legacy, you can't just say, no, we're not going to do it. But I think we just need to be smart. And I think where we maybe need to start is kind of start somewhere where we see that there's a lot of change happening. Like, okay, let's focus on one area. Let's see how we can, develop this, or how can we look at this domain and see, So I think we just need to do it in a smart way, and in parallel, deliver as we have done before, but, take small pieces. Usually, what we say is keep it simple, start small and develop it from there. So start looking at, more isolated domains where we know that there's a lot of, change. And we know that if we create something there, if we identify, if we create kind of modularity and identify some of the reusable services, since there is a lot of rapid change, then of course we will reuse these a lot in the solutions that we are doing. So, and then, show the success story there. And then when others in the organization say, wow, look at this, look how they have built this, then, that will eventually come as a mindset. So definitely not give up. I think this is one of the greatest things happening now. I'm really kind of evangelizing this. But I think we just need to kind of keep it simple and start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
As we always say, we try it out, fail and learn, and then, try it out again. So, yeah.
I think that's what Agile is all about. You got to iterate, you got to make it better. No, this is fascinating. So listen, we talked a lot about how you've come to where you are today. I'm curious about, where you're going from now, the future. So we alluded to a little bit. I mean, things are changing again, once again in IT, like it always is. We got generative AI now. I mean, we talked about orchestration, and it was like, bring business systems and also people together in end-to-end business processes. Now we've got these new synthetic brains, these LLMs, these generative AI units. Do you have any prediction, like what? So we talked about the last 9 years up until today. What do you think the next 5 years will look like? What are you? Do you see any change of maybe how generative AI gets incorporated in these orchestration, and what do you see there happening?
So, when it comes to implementing AI solutions, across H&M, I think we are doing, a lot of stuff, on our entire kind of value chain, from supply chain, logistic, operation, to marketing, sales, and eventually customer experience. And we are leveraging AI today to, make our products and, the experience more relevant for our customers. So we are kind of trying to provide more accurate, for example, product recommendation, and that can include size or style suggestions. And we are also using AI today to, help us get, better at making sure that the right products reach the right stores, customers, reach it at the right time, and of course, in return, also reducing the number of unsold items. We are also in a very early stage of exploring how AI can enhance our own employee productivity, so everybody can get more creative, and work more strategic. So, from the current state, of the technology today, I think we believe that AI solutions that we are implementing should also include humans in the loop. to prevent, bias or ensure that the best possible solutions, are there for our customers and employees. Looking at, AI from an orchestration perspective, I would say that that's something that probably will also make a lot of sense when we get there, and would make a huge difference, I would say.
I told you I did the BPR, the business process design. I mean, we talked about these end-to-end business processes, and a lot of people who are in that old stage of doing the file-based stuff, they will never get there. But then if you do it from the business side, it's actually really hard. I mean, that's my experience. Describing an end-to-end process step by step, with all the exception, with everything, so nothing goes wrong, is a really challenging exercise. And I think what we're experimenting at the moment with is kind of like, if you have these AI agents and you're describing the process not step by step, but you're basically describing the actors in the process. So you have a whole new different approach to orchestration, where actually you got decisions and conditional logic made by these LLMs. That seems like a fascinating thing to think about, how that can change the end-to-end process. But as you said, I mean, we're super early in all of this. This is really interesting to see what that can bring.
Yeah, definitely. We are very excited to see how we can apply that as well.
Well, very cool. Hey, Ramak, first of all, this was fantastic. I really do think, I think that the journey that you guys have been through, like building from kind of like nothing, like 17 up to like over 600 APIs, 500 events, and so on, and now making that composable architecture happen. I think it's fascinating. I hope that many more companies are embarking on that journey. Really enjoyed the conversation. I believe there's lots and lots of learnings here for the audience. So thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, good conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Markus.
All right, thank you, Ramak. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Please make sure to rate today's episode, leave us a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the show so you will never miss an episode. I'll see you next time.